everybody. Welcome back to the Techegy podcast. Doing an episode tonight of a series that we actually haven't done in a couple months. It kind of went to the wayside. This is Player Nay, and tonight's episode is Night Trap. And for some reason, every time I say that, I want to say Night Stalker, which is an entirely different game and series. Anyways, Night Trap is a 1992 interactive movie which was developed by Digital Pictures and published by Sega for the Sega CD initially. Um, Pretty much presented through FMV full motion video, and it tasks the players with observing teenage girls at a sleepover visiting a house which is infested with vampire-like creatures, apparently. And it's unbeknownst to them, but the game, you kind of flip through the channels, if you want to call it that, and try to save them or watch them die. It was initially received with mixed reviews. Critics had praised the B-movie-esque quality and the humor and some of the video animation, but they said that the gameplay was shallow. The game was one of the principal subjects of the 1993 United States Senate Committee hearing on violent video games, along with Mortal Kombat. Night Trap was cited during the hearing as promoting gratuitous violence and sexual aggression against women. Prompting toy retailers, probably shouldn't laugh at that. Prompting toy retailers, Toys R Us and KB Toys. That's a name I haven't heard in a long time, KB Toys.
KB Toys.
Yeah, to pull the game from shelves that December, and Sega to cease producing copies in January 1994. The Senate hearing led to the creation of the Entertainment Software Rating Board, better known as the ESRB, which I think we should do an episode on in the future, just this whole event that took place. I think that'd be a good topic. I'm sure it's been done, but I think it'd be fun. I think we could have some fun with it. Also, this ratings board is still used today, and there are other ratings boards in like Europe and Australia. Australia is pretty tough. They banned Grand Theft Auto San Andreas when it came out. I remember that. But anyways, after the controversy subsided, Night Trap was ported to other consoles, including the 32X 3DO Interactive Multiplayer, MS-DOS, and Mac OS. Re-released in 2017 and 2018 for 8th generation consoles to mark its 25th anniversary, retrospective reviews of Night Trap were negative, owing to FMV's aging appeal as a game medium, and has been cited as one of the worst video games of all time.
Wow. What about E.T.?
What?
What about E.T.?
E.T.'s actually not that bad. I think we mentioned this on the last one. It's not that bad.
I think E.T.'s probably worse. But...
we're I don't know. We'll do E.T. someday, but that one's too low hanging fruit. Anyways,
softball pitch.
Yes, that's a softball pitch. Underhanded, obviously. So I don't know. Yeah, we've all played this. Some of us have played this recently as me last week. I think probably a few of you have played this in the past, or a little bit more familiar with it. So initial takes, initial thoughts, if you will.
Well, it is pretty much impossible to beat without a cheat sheet. So Good. Because even if you start it and you start watching the movie, as you're watching the movie, there's actually these Augs, which are the vampires, roaming the house and supposedly capturing the girls, even while you're watching the introduction, which is where the Sega team, or whatever they call it, I don't know the exact name, but you're supposed to be part of the Sega team, and they're giving you intro on how to play the game, but yet girls are getting captured in the background while you're doing that. So automatically you start off losing the game because there's already some people captured, and you're already, not capturing as many people as you're supposed to, or the vampires as many as you're supposed to. But out there on the internet and YouTube, there is a very good video called Night Trap 25 Years Later that talks about the whole thing, does a really good, thing on the game. And basically, I guess Nolan Bushnell hired a James Riley and a Tom Zito and another guy, I don't know his name, but it's all in that video. And they actually tried to do this for the first game, was actually something called Scenes of the Crime, which they were going to put on VHS tape. And they were trying, I think, to do this at home because of the games that happened 10 years ago, which was Dragon's Lair and Space Ace, which were only in arcades, and they were trying to bring that crisp movie, cartoon, or movie to home, home systems. So they made that crime scene one for actually VHS, which I don't know if it ever got published or not, because they gave a lot of money towards it, and then I think they pulled it near the end. But then they made a deal after a couple of deals that fell through with Sega to put Night Trap and a couple other ones they were working on. Sword Sharks, a good one, and Ground Zero Texas is actually good ones. I mean, I don't want to say they're good for FMV. They're not as good as other games, I don't think, but they're actually they're different. And back in that day, graphics were so poor that just the idea that you could have full motion video, it was kind of like a gimmick, but a lot of us young kids went for it because at least it was video versus your 8-bit characters. And so it was actually revolutionary at that time, and it did, like I said, bring up the rating system because of that. Like before that, games were all pretty mellow and restricted, but when they started getting these games where they started showing some girls in nightgowns and stuff like that, that's when back then everybody made an uproar and created the rating system so kids couldn't see that stuff.
Not a nightgown. Not a nightgown.
Not a girl in a nightgown.
What's funny? I actually I've played this in the past, like I probably played it for the first time in high school, like back when I first got into emulation. And I sitting down last week and playing, I played it for about 5 hours, and then I just couldn't play anymore. And I felt so uncomfortable playing the game. I felt like a sleazeball for some reason. I don't know.
It's kind of more like jokey than anything else. I mean, everything in it is kind of way over the edge of being kind of like, even the way the vampires take blood from people is like this weird drill mechanism that they never show any blood or anything.
Now, I'm sure, I haven't researched this. I'm sure that the women that portrayed these characters in here are well over the age of 18, but the fact that they continue to call them teenagers made me uncomfortable the entire time that I was playing.
Well, there's much worse stuff on TV probably than this.
You're missing the point here. You're missing my point. I'm not talking about 25 years ago. I'm talking playing it now as a 32-year-old male. It made me uncomfortable that I was watching something that involved, I don't care about them being murdered, I don't care about the vampires, that these were supposedly teenage girls that we were like spying on.
But they're not. If you watch the video, they're all over like 21 years old.
Yes,
you're just suggesting they're kids.
Exactly, but that's the uncomfortability about it is the that they were teens.
I don't know if they say they're teens. They could be college kids. They didn't really say, it doesn't say that, does it?
If I'm remembering correctly, whenever they're opening the story, I thought it does mention that it's teenagers at a sleepover.
Maybe it does. I don't know.
Pretty sure it does. I don't know. Just a weird thing, I guess. It didn't bother me obviously when I was in high school, but now I'm like, why are we watching? I mean, you could have said college. It's a sorority party or something like that.
Yeah, it's
they're
kind
marketing it for kids. That's why. I mean,
yeah. Kind of the way it felt. I was watching one of the Friday the 13th today, and that kind of felt like one of these, like this game a little bit.
Yeah.
From the the 80s cheese, so to speak.
Well, anyway. I mean, the big thing is the game is really tough because you have to pretty much memorize every second that you're supposed to push the button to actually release a trap. And you have to be in the right room. And there's another thing where they got a color code, which if you're not watching the right video scene, you'll miss the color code. And then from then on, you're picking, I don't know how many colors there is, like 7 or maybe 8. I don't think it may be 6, but basically you got to pick the right color. And if you miss that code, you basically throughout the rest of the game, you're guessing what color to pick and then to push the button to catch, the bad guys, the vampires. So it is a very, very tough game. And you would have to go through it hundreds of times to figure out exactly what the seconds are and the color that you're supposed to pick to catch all basically the vampires.
So you're basically saying it's got hundreds of hours worth of gameplay.
Well, it does. In
What I
fact,
heard?
Unintentionally.
I've never watched all of the video ever, so,
Has anybody though?
well, I don't, well, somebody probably did, because there's a couple cheats out there you can get that take you second by second. But one thing on the cheats, a lot of them say something about a second bedroom, and I saw no second bedroom in any of the cameras that you look at. So I don't know. So maybe there is a couple different versions of this. Maybe it's different on a Nintendo or wherever else it was. I don't know where else it was. Was it on a? I know it was on 2 or 3 other systems after Sega got it on theirs. So
It wasn't Nintendo, because Nintendo made a special.
I mean, maybe it was like, what would it have been around that time?
3DO.
Yeah, it was DOS, 3DO, Mac OS.
Yeah.
I think it would have been like it might have been 3DO, because I thought they said there was another system that had it. So.
Yeah. Yeah. No, because definitely wasn't Nintendo, because that was a big.
Yeah, they wouldn't have been doing on there
court
anyway.
things, the hearings about violence in video games was, you will never see this game ever on a Nintendo system.
Well, that's because it didn't have a CD. You needed a CD to play it anyway. So
that wasn't the reason he was saying it.
CD.
He was saying we were family friendly.
So
yeah, Nintendo did. They sent one of their they sent a representative to that hearing just to specifically say that Nintendo was the family company.
Well,
and for many up until the GameCube. Well, I shouldn't say that. Take that back, because the N64 came around, and the first one of the first violent games on the N64 was Doom. So, yeah. So
what's funny about that board where they were getting on them about it. Actually, Tom Zito was there, and they said he did not show up, and he was there. And then when he tried to ask the question, they shut him down right in the meeting. Right in the
sounds about right.
So. He didn't even get to defend himself.
I mean, that stuff still happens with those congressional inquiry BS stuff, where they tell people, they say people didn't appear, they say you don't have time, you don't have the time allotted, and there's all kinds of games that are played during this.
If you do watch that video I told you on YouTube, they actually show him. Yeah, they show him in the crowd and everything, and he tries to ask a question. So.
But he wasn't there.
Yeah. So
I love it. So what's your impressions of the game, Mike?
Well, here's the thing. You don't want to buy this unless you like historical things, because the gameplay, it's kind of neat for about 5 minutes, and then after that, you get bored with it. But I liked it because I had a Sega CD, and I got 3 games when I got it. This Shore Shark and the Ground Zero Texas. And I just played them over and over again, and I kept thinking I could beat this game, and I might have made it maybe halfway through, maybe. So, never got to the end, by the way. So I'd always give up after time. So, and I never really used the cheats either. I probably could have found a cheat and did that, but I was always too lazy.
Back in those days, it was hard to find cheats for games.
Well, it was, but I'm sure it had to be out there somewhere, because I remember with Sega, I was able to get some cheats, because you remember they used to have a lot of magazines. Even some of the magazines put the cheats out.
And you had the Game Shark. Was it wasn't Game Shark back then? It was Game Genie.
Yeah, they had a lot of different magazines, so you could find out information. But I only like it because that was one of my favorite systems, and and I thought it was neat because it was the first video games where it was actually true film. So, but as far as entertainment, other games are, you need more skill, and and they're funner. But it's just kind of neat to play with. But I would never buy it for more than $10-15, something like that. So anyway, that's my view on it. It is historical. If it did make the rating system. That's in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
So
the 2 main ones, and then they started pulling
just
some more in there.
If these wouldn't have been made, maybe there would never have been one.
No, there would have been one.
It would have came eventually.
It would have came eventually. Yes, it would have.
They've revamped it a couple times since then, based on other games. I remember when maybe this will be a topic for that, but I remember when Manhunt came out on Xbox, that they I don't know if they reconvened, but they had like this whole thing where they were like, we're re-examining the ESRB and we're going to ban this game. And some countries did ban Manhunt, and I'm not even certain if you can still get Manhunt in some of those countries. So keep in mind, that as far as video games go, in the United States, you have pretty open access to any games you want. Europe, Canada, Australia, they ban
Australia's one of the stricter ones.
they ban games in those countries.
Yeah.
So I don't, people come at us for stuff. Just remember, you can play anything you want here. It might have a rating and you might have to show an ID, but you can play it.
Which, you get your dad or a friend to buy it for you anyway. No, that's what usually happens. But
well,
anyway.
sure. My mom, I remember, bought me San Andreas.
My parents bought it for me.
Oh yeah.
But
I mean,
anyway,
I guess here's what I want to say. If you like Dragon's Lair or Space Ace, I mean, this is a similar game to that, but not as good. So.
That's a glowing review right there. It's
Glowing
like
review.
those games, but not as good.
Well, I mean, my thing is it's probably harder. I mean, Dragon's Lair, you could figure out the timing because you went to the same scene every time. This one you got what, 6 or 8 possible combinations, which makes it a lot harder.
Sure. So M2, I think it's your first time playing it, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I've heard of it. I never played it, and I'm starting to wonder if I played the wrong game because I actually kind of enjoyed it. Now I should preface this by saying I played it on DOS, and so I was able to click on rooms to move around, and so the controls weren't as finicky. The first time I booted up, I had no idea what was going on, and I also didn't know if DOS was working. So I was clicking around, and then I saw what looked like I don't know, but apparently they're vampires. It almost felt like any comedy movie where you have burglars entering a house. From that standpoint, I was enjoying myself. It felt like playing along in one of those early 2000s like Vin Diesel movies where he's the pacifier and people are invading his house. That's what it felt like. And then I was clicking around. And I was like, oh, there's probably like a guide or something for this. And so I was like, no, that wouldn't be available back then, right? You wouldn't be able to Google how to play this. So I actually found I believe 3DO manual, and I read the 3DO manual because that's what you would have had at the time, and it seemed to be the most genuine way to experience it. And so on my second attempt, which took like 20 minutes to get DOS working again, I actually got 20 of the 53 that I saw before my game crashed. I was enjoying myself. It was definitely goofy. I had no idea what was going on. And it was just a lot of like clicking around. It reminded me of like the old Flash games where like they're not good, but you're gonna play them and you can find some enjoyment in them. I will say I'm sure there's some upscaling going on, but I thought that the videos, especially on the DOS version, were they held up. You could tell that there were people. You could pick out stuff in the background. And I mean, you don't see that in a lot of the older games, is that the graphics don't really hold up. But I guess I actually kind of enjoyed playing it. Now, am I going to go buy the one on Steam to play through it completely? No. But it's not bad. At least that's my take.
I mean, I had fun with it too, but I don't know if I'd recommend it to other people unless they kind of researched it first,
So my
it's not a good game. It's a comedy.
It's a comedy. Oh yeah.
I like the filming. I really do. I think it's funny.
So it's very much so. But do they actually? So I mean, when I come up with the words that I said at the beginning of this podcast, and I mentioned about them being vampires, I actually didn't. Did they ever mention during the game that they're vampires?
Well, wait a minute. The mother and the father are vampires, and the Augs they're vampires too, or they were the ones that collect the blood for the main 2 vampires, which is the parents. Oh, I guess that's a ruin of the game, isn't it?
Yeah, there you go. You just spoiled it.
I just spoiled. We better bleep that out.
When I was younger,
and I get to disc 2.
I always thought they were some kind of like people sent from a lab trying to take their DNA or something. Like that's what I
Yeah.
always thought that they were.
Well,
Yeah, the
I was
Augs like collect the blood for the vampires, basically, and they are vampires though. It's pretty much says it somewhere in the game.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
was confused because the first of those guys that ran out had like he had that like tool that I guess it was to
The
collect the
drill,
blood, but the drill, but it
the
didn't
drill to
look like
suck
a
the blood.
drill.
Yeah.
It looked like a one of those like arm things for on as seen on TV. He runs out with this thing. I'm like, this is hilarious. And then all of a sudden you're flipping between rooms and there's someone upside down with like tubes coming out into them, and you're like, what is going on? And it felt like a parody of anything, like everything.
Did you notice the Augs are actually wearing garbage bags? They're black
Yeah.
garbage.
Yeah.
That's all they are. That's why it's kind of funny. I mean, if you look at the stuff, it's funny.
It very much feels like an early 90s parody of like an 80s B horror movie.
Well, it was a low budget. I mean, they were given a lot of money to develop the technology, but when it came to making this one, I don't think they had a lot of
Yes,
money.
they had trash bags.
Yeah, they had trash, but well, that's what I mean. They used whatever they had. You know.
So M2's opinion is it was entertaining, but wouldn't probably spend money to pick up a copy. So speaking of spending money to pick up a copy, what do you got going on with this game?
Oh, so like MC, I had a Sega CD back in the day, and this was one game I bought. I mean, Dana Plato was in it. She was in a TV show called Different Strokes at the time. I don't know if she was coked up when she was doing this or not. But it was, she was a low grade TV star at the time, low level TV star at the time.
Hey, Mike, I think she died 2 years after the making of this.
Okay. So
I don't know.
We'll dedicate this
she was
podcast in her memory. But she, it seemed like everybody on Different Strokes had some issues.
They did.
It was a good show. So if you ever get a chance, but going back to this game, it was one of the games I bought with my Sega CD back in the day. Mike, you mentioned MC. You mentioned a game that I actually enjoyed much more than this. It was Sewer Shark.
And one of my favorites.
I bought that and this one at the same time. I bought the thing, and honestly, this game was so hard at the time. I think what I ended up doing is I just put it back in the box and played Sewer Shark. So when we were talking about doing this, I went out and they did the remasters of these. They did them on the Switch, and that's where JC is making fun of me. I did this. We have a store here, Trade In, last year. This game has been out for a little while. This game has been out since what? Since 2018. So it's now 5 years ago. So yes, on Trade In, I think it was $66 I spent on it. No, I did not get my money's worth out of that $66, but I did play it earlier. I traded in all like CDs from the 80s and 90s, that I've had for 30 years, as you guys are laughing at me. So I traded in something old to get something old and bad. I won't say the word to get this censored.
Mike, I bought 2 copies too, because I bought it on Steam too because of the remastering, and that the film is now perfect. It's not all
well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. It's not perfect. It looks like one of those infomercials that you saw in the 80s and 90s. The video quality, yes, it's better than it was on the CD. Oh, absolutely, it's better. But the stuff that they used, it looks like outtakes from some of the infomercials. I played it tonight. The what do you call it? The console that you're looking at, that looked really good for $66.
Well,
but the videos, they're clear. It does look. I mean, I would even venture that with some of the hairstyles and stuff, it looks like an adult movie in some areas of it. I got like 6 or 7 of the things. The instructions were actually built into this now, but on the Switch, because unlike the Xbox, I switched the buttons around. I kept hitting the wrong buttons, and it wasn't real descriptive. I actually learned how to play it more from listening to what M2 had to say a few minutes ago. It's like, you got to wait to a certain spot where you hit the button. So I might go back and play it again, and then this thing right here sits for 10 years and hopefully is worth more than $66.
I will say, not to interrupt you, but I will say I do like the artwork that they chose for the game, especially that right there. And you showed earlier before we started.
What they did was here.
This is, I mean, it's not worth $66, but it's nice that they have,
the old Sega style.
I guess from a collector's standpoint, this what potentially could be worth your copy for the Switch could be potentially worth money someday.
Oh yeah, I think it will. Actually, before I opened it, it's been sitting on my shelf. I looked and saw what it was worth, but it does come with a little book. And what I thought was funny, I will read an excerpt from the book.
Oh,
for those who own personal, sorry. Hey, it's a good Catholic education I got. I can read.
Is this is this the you reading us the Psalms of Nate Trapp?
No, you need to hear this. This right here is right up. This is a technology podcast. This is how seriously they took this. For those who own personal computing devices equipped with a modem and telecommunication software, technical support and customer service can be brought into your home at 300, 1200, and 2400 baud from the limited run games online BBS. Callers should set their telecommunications package to reflect 8 bits, 1-stop bit, and no parity.
So the company that re-released this game has a BBS set for that.
There's no phone number. It just says.
All I know is the guy that re-released it was the guy that was hired to restore old archives of games and video material, and he was restoring this video stuff,
whether it needed to be or not.
Well, yeah, right, but they were doing it for historical reasons. He was restoring it, and then he had the idea that he would talk to the creators of it and see if they'd let him recreate the game, and that's why it was created. What year? 2018?
Yes.
Yeah, 2018. And he goes under what name? I forget. The name should be on it.
It says limited run and Screaming Villains.
Yeah, Screaming Villain. Yeah. He also did. He restored Ground Zero Texas, and made it for the PC. You can get them on Steam. And I don't know, Mike. I mean, mine that I have on the PC, the video looks really, really clear. Now I know what you mean.
Oh no, it looks clear. I mean, for what?
But it has that
how it was shot.
Well, right. It has that 70s or whatever that was.
It looks like a videotape. It honestly looks like a videotape.
Yeah, I mean, it has the video quality of the TV back in that.
Yeah. No. It looks way better than it when on my Sega CD. I mean, on the Sega CD, it was pixelated.
Right.
You were squinting. You couldn't tell that they were wearing trash bags.
I mean, it was good on the bright scenes. On the dark scenes, it was tough to see.
Yeah, it was tough to see. Those trash bags, they blend right in with the back of the the background.
Right.
It would have been a great advertisement for Hefty back then.
Yeah. but I mean, it is kind of, I don't know.
It's nostalgic. It's nostalgic. It's history. It's,
M2 had it right. It's kind of fun to play around with. It's kind of enjoyable, but it isn't the best game.
No, like I said, Sewer Shark. Now it is on the Sega Genesis Mini 2 that was only released in Japan. That if you buy it from Amazon, they'll ship it from Japan. But if it is on there, but so is Sewer Shark, and I can tell you which one of the two I'd probably play of the two.
I would definitely get Sewer Shark, and I would if you could get Ground Zero Texas, because it's
I don't remember if Ground Zero Texas was on that.
It's basically aliens come to Texas, and
I wouldn't have guessed that by the title.
And you're hired by the military to arm this remote gun and shoot and kill the aliens.
I'll have to look at it because again, that stuff at the time, I just always remember Sewer Shark at the time. It was a simple game, but it was the graphics on it were just it was the best they could do. But at the time, you were like, "Oh, this looks really cool."
Yes, it was cool. It was just like the first VR. It's like you're like, wow, check that out.
Yeah, it really was. It was the first time like you ever saw Donkey Kong on a ColecoVision in your home. I mean, it was that revolutionary. What you think, JC? You got to have an opinion of this. Were you even alive when the first one came out? Yeah, you were.
I was 2.
You were too. So your mom bought you a copy of this and Sewer Shark.
Absolutely. My mom bought me a copy of Super Shark when I was 2, and we sat down and played it together. It was good family memories I remember to this day. Um, so I played for 5 hours last week or the week before. I'm gonna be honest, 5 hours devotion to that was a little bit rough. It was funny, from looking at it, kind of the sitcom movie kind of knockoff aspect, but after about an hour and a half, it lost the novelty, and I just was doing it just so I could say that I did it. um, I gotta be honest. FMV games are almost an automatic no for me, and this one's no different.
Even immortality, you don't like immortality?
It's okay, but I'm gonna pass probably play it for the most part.
Yeah,
Like if I sit down and have time to something, it's most likely not gonna be an FMV game, and that's just and
See, I'll play anything.
And that almost even goes for current games that are video or FMV-esque, because there are some story driven, call them adventure games, that are out now that are similar to this style, where you make decisions and you're basically just, it's an interactive story. I usually pass those games. They're just not, I've other things I'd rather play. But yeah, once novelty weight wears off, it's a big fat stink for me. And that's a thumbs down. I'm giving it thumbs down.
I'd have to give it a thumbs down as well. Especially the price that what this one here is today. I think if you're looking at it from nostalgia and you can play it dirt cheap, or you get it as part of some bundle that you don't pay a lot for, I think it's worth trying it, so you kind of understand the history and stuff. Again, I can't recommend the game. I really can't recommend it for going out and saying, I want to buy a Sega CD so I can play this one game, or I want to spend $15 on Steam for it, so I have to give it up as well.
All right, got 2 more. We thumbs up or thumb down, boys.
Look, I have definitely spent more money on worse games.
Fair.
I can 100% say that. $15 on Steam. I almost bought it after playing it through DOS just because I wanted to play more of it. There's something comedic about watching these guys crouch walk like Zoidberg from Futurama around. And as I'm reading about the game, it's because the stunt guys, they were ready to fall at any given time, because they had to make it look, they couldn't be prepped for the fall beforehand, and so they just be always crouched prepped for the fall, and that's why they walk so weird. And it's like, is it a great game? No. Is it worth $15 to the right person? Yeah. I think it's a sale game for me. I think I'll put it on my wish list, and if at the next sale it hits like $5, maybe 10.
This would be a good GOG game where it's $2, $3 a game. You know what I mean? That's and that's what I would say. It's if it's $2 or $3, it's up. If it's more than that, it's down.
I'd be generous. Give it a 5 for the.
You're fine. Okay,
it's better than most of the.
Hey, I bought it for 15. I overpaid, but I bought it for 15.
We were pretty unanimous the last game. So this time we're split.
Right down the middle.
Split 2 down. Yeah. We didn't compare it to a game that was semi-similar like we did the last time. But that was
it's semi-similar to Borderlands 3.
It's really similar to the Energy Hogs game on that one website from 20 years ago.
Newgrounds.
Oregon Trail, maybe.
Put this way. It's probably a little bit worse than any of the FMV games you play today, which there's a number of them out there. If you like FMV,
it's the Telltale games are probably the most direct modern comparison.
Yeah.
But
agree with that.
Those are definitely better story-wise.
They
I
are.
can
Well,
tell
you
you
only
that
got to
I
guess.
had more fun playing this. And I'm 100% in all the Telltale games.
Yeah, there was only one I liked. I can't think of the name. What was the one? Wolf Among Us. Yeah, that was the only one I really liked. The other ones were, you know.
Cool. Yep. So 2 thumbs up, 2 thumbs down. So, like, attempt to play at your own risk. I would suggest maybe alternative methods for a try. But like I said, there is a novelty for sure to it. But the patience with that novelty wore off a lot quicker. It sounds like than some others here. um, but anyways, I guess that's final word for that. So thanks everyone for joining us for Player Nate Nate Trap edition. I'm sure we'll have something of equal or better quality to talk about the next time. Cool ideas. But
If you have an idea, put it down in the
yeah,
thing. We'll be happy to play it, review it, and hopefully save you some money or help you find that gem in the toilet. I mean,
even if your suggestion is to stop making podcasts, post it down in the comments. Cool with that. All right.
all
So,
right.
as we say here at the Techegy Turdcast, stay
Very nerdy, my friend.
Nerdy, my friend.
friends.